Welcome to the Wolfpack Sports Wire, a podcast from the athletic department at Whitefield Academy. Whitefield Academy is a Christ-centered pre-K through 12 college preparatory school located in Smyrna, Georgia. On this show, we highlight our hardworking coaches and student athletes who are excelling in and out of competition. Welcome back to the Wolfpack Sports Wire. I'm your host, Jack Hunter. It is the week of August 25th, and it's episode 2 of the show. Today, we will hear from head football coach Robert Walsh and head softball coach Mike Fuller. We start today with Coach Walsh. Our conversation with him is following Whitefield Academy's 48-14 win last Friday over Mount Vernon. Coach Walsh, good to have you on. How are you doing?
I'm good, Jack. Heading into the bye week, feeling good after a big win. Appreciate you having me on.
So it was a big win last Friday night. It was a 34-point victory over Mount Vernon. It was your first win of the season. Let's start broad. When you got in the locker room after the game and you kind of got to unwind a little bit, what did you think about the performance from the opening kickoff to the final kneel down?
We started a little slow at the beginning of the game. Missed on 2 big plays early in the game that would have been touchdowns, I think. But after that, I was really impressed just thinking about our offensive line and just the way they paved the way for our running game. I mean, we rushed for 400 yards Friday night. I don't know how many times a Whitefield Academy football team has done that in the past. But that was kind of what I thought about was our offensive line and the execution and the physicality they played with.
Yeah, I mean, last week versus Savannah Christian, you talked about the fact that they really didn't let Landon get touch and pass protection. And this week it was in the running game. How confident do you feel as you head further into the season in this offensive line that whether it's in the running game or the passing game, you can trust them to really move your offense forward?
I mean, you talk about we have 4 seniors that start on that offensive line. So a lot of experience and a lot of leadership. So we're definitely going to be leaning on them throughout the season. David Tidwell has probably the most experience. He started since his sophomore year. Josh Ellis has played a little bit since his sophomore year. On the offensive line and started for us last year. So, I think there's a lot of experience up front and great leadership. So we're definitely going to be leaning on them a lot.
The biggest beneficiary of that offensive line was Mason Hollingsworth, 275 yards, 5 touchdowns in 3 quarters. When you look at his running game, I mean, he's got speed, he's got power, agility, side to side. What makes him so special and what made him so special in that game versus Mount Vernon?
It's definitely his vision and the way he sets up his blocks. He's a patient runner, but then once he sees it, he's going to explode. The 63-yard touchdown run was a prime example of him setting up his blocks and then leaving people hugging air with a couple jump cuts that were really nice. And then he left everybody with his speed. I've sent that to every college coach I could to try to get this kid an offer. They questioned his top speed, but I think he just showed it right there. He hit 20 miles an hour on that run. Just his vision, his patience, and then his ability to lead people is special.
Yeah, and then I want to talk about on the other side of the ball, kind of more on the younger side. Carson Lewis in the first Mount Vernon drive of the game was 4th down, kind of deep in y'all's territory. They throw up a one-on-one ball to their best receiver, a guy that had a big catch early in the drive, a guy that dominated last week, and the young guy makes a big-time play. So what did it mean to you to have a young guy like Carson Lewis step up and make a play like that?
I mean, over the weekend we were kind of talking about, number 11 and what corner we're going to make travel with him, and we talked about giving Carson some help on 2 plays on that drive. We kind of called a different coverage and left him without help. Number 11 made a nice catch earlier in the drive, but then Carson responded very, very well, moving on to the next play. I think Carson has a bright future. He's a technician. He's coachable. He's listened to everything Coach Henderson has kind of taught him early in this season about leverage and all that stuff. I think he's going to be very, very special, and it just shows he's maturing. He just turned 15 too, by the way. So he's a very young freshman, but we're excited about him.
Another guy that really impressed me a sophomore, so staying with the young vision, was Amos Robinson, who came in towards the end of the game, had 11 carries, 88 yards, and a touchdown. But even kind of just away from the stat page, that guy was running like his hair was on fire. He's bowling through people, yards after contact. I mean, that was very impressive to watch. And what confidence does that give you that not only like in the future you have a good backfield, but that you have that guy behind Mason that, I mean, plays with his hair on fire?
You know, Amos, I've told him several times, you know, you need to make people regret getting in front of you and trying to tackle you. He's a different runner than Mason, but he's a powerful runner. He made a nice cut on one of our run plays where we had two guys unblocked. He split them and then ended up bowling over two of them and getting like 7 or 8 yards when really nothing was there. That's the type of ball carrier he is. I think he's got a bright future, and it gives me confidence knowing that, you know, Mason, if he needs to take a break, we can roll Amos in there and still have success offensively.
From an identity perspective, when you have a game where you rush for over 400 yards, you have two running backs that just are kind of bruising the defense in different ways, physicality, and then kind of setting up the blocks, as you said with Mason. What does it mean to you as a coach trying to kind of establish a culture of like tough-nosed football, and you see a game like that where from the line of scrimmage just dominated like that?
So that's kind of what I've been preaching to our O-line. I'm actually coaching the offensive line this year. You know, I've been talking to them about being nasty in between the whistles. You know, we're here at Whitefield Academy. You have great parents, you have great faculty and staff members here that teach you how to be great young men, but God created football in between the whistles for you to be nasty. And you need to take advantage of this opportunity that God has blessed us with to be able to compete the way we get to on a football field, which our O-line has responded to that very, very well. We're doing something a little different this year where I'm actually giving them helmet stickers. So the gold stars you see on their helmets are for physical plays, touchdowns, big runs, pancakes. David Tidwell actually came back to me last week arguing with me, Coach, this is a pancake. I needed a gold star. So they're kind of excited about that. And then on the flip side of that, I'm also doing a white star for academics. So if you see white stars on their helmets, they're getting A's on quizzes, tests, and then if they have A's and B's when I do grade checks, they get another white star. So trying to motivate them in different ways to create that nasty mentality in between whistles that God has blessed us with to be able to compete in.
Awesome. So we talked a lot about the offense. I want to talk a little bit about the defense. Mount Vernon was able to kind of put together some plays, get down the field a little bit, especially early in the game. But the common theme throughout the game was kind of a bend but don't break. I mean, they had to earn their points. And late in the game, they had, I think, 12-play drive that they ended up finally punching in. But, I mean, they had to give everything they had just to get across that line. Defensively, what did you see in the defense for a group that was able to really just keep the ball in front of them and not really allow that many big plays?
I think that's something in high school football that a lot of people don't take advantage of, is trying to make a team drive the field without making a mistake. Most of the time in high school football, the offense coordinators are going to get too greedy and try to create a shot play that maybe isn't there. And, you know, defensively we're able to make a play, or, you know, they make a mistake by holding or getting a penalty. You know, Coach Kruger, Coach Henderson, Coach Hawkins, and Coach Bentley do a really good job of preparing our boys. You know, we gave up a couple big plays here and there, but they did have to earn everything they got Friday night, which I truly appreciate as a former defensive coach.
Yeah, so we look forward to this week. It's kind of an interesting week here at Whitefield, but for your program overall, you've got a bye, so no game this week, and then you've got half your high school, so 9th and 12th grade, leaving for a retreat on Wednesday. So how is this week going to look practice-wise so that you guys can stay focused and sharp with the time that you do have to come out of the bye week strong?
So We'll practice. We won't practice today on Monday. We'll kind of give them the day off, and then Tuesday we'll have probably about an hour and 45-minute practice with the whole team. And then, as you said, our freshmen and seniors will leave on Wednesday. I'll have the sophomores and juniors practice for about an hour and 45 minutes, and then I'll give them the rest of the week off. I think it's important. We've been going at it since July 25th week. You're talking 4 straight weeks of games, including our 2 scrimmages. So I think this bye week falls at a perfect time to kind of get them away from football, allow them to kind of reset their mind and focus on something else for a few days, and come back on Labor Day and get back to work and get ready for Social Circle.
We talked about a lot of the good that happened versus Mount Vernon. As a coach, I know you're always trying to improve, always trying to watch the tape, trying to see what the team can do better. What is one thing that you're taking away from maybe just the whole season in general, but maybe this last week that you're watching now that you really want your team to keep working on as the season goes forward, especially in the Social Circle?
I feel like defensively we got better from week 1 to week 2. Coming from Savannah Christian, I want to see us take a step defensively of maintaining gap integrity on defense, and then on offense, I think executing the big plays when they're there. If you were watching the game, we had 2 big plays at the beginning of the game that could have been touchdowns to start the game off 7-0. I think we got to focus and make sure we execute those plays early in a game. Because if we don't later in the season, that could come back and bite us when we're playing a really good football team.
All right, well, that's Robert Walsh. Coach, thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it, Jack, and go Pat.
Our next guest is Mike Fuller. Coach Fuller is in his 4th season coaching our softball team. Last season, he led the Wolfpack to the Sweet 16 of the state playoffs for the first time in school history. The team returns a lot of its key players and is poised for another run this year. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you.
So you are kind of young in the season. You had a lot of games rained out last week, but you're still kind of looking to push forward into the year. What have been your initial observations of the team this year? What do you like? What are some things that you're kind of looking to improve upon as you go further into the season?
Right. Well, our team this year is the most athletic team I've had in my 4 seasons, so I'm really encouraged by just the opportunities that the girls can achieve this year versus the previous 3.
Yeah, and talk about the experience, too, that you've got coming back. Obviously, you guys had a great season last year, and you bring a lot of the players back this year.
Yes, we bring 4 seniors back this year, and some good leadership within those seniors. And just the team chemistry this year is phenomenal, even more so than the previous 3 years. So very encouraged about the team chemistry because, that leads to good things as well.
Mm-hmm. A big difference for your team this year, though, is pitching-wise. You guys have relied upon one pitcher for the last few years, and this year you have 3. Tell me about that and what that's going to look like this year and how that helps your team.
Well, I just got some news this past weekend that my freshman pitcher has tendonitis in the elbow, so she will be shut down for at least 4 weeks. But we do have a pitcher that transferred from Chapel Hill High School, Olivia Mitchell, and she will be our number 1 pitcher. And we still have CC Springfield, who has put in all the work the previous 3 years to secure that position. She will be obviously play a big role in that as well.
Yeah, and what is that going to do to help your team this year? Because CC obviously a special player, SEC commit, naturally kind of an outfielder that you guys have had to throw her in the circle to pitch. So can that help her game now that she is not going to be relied upon as much pitching?
Oh, yes, she is incredibly happy this year that we have another pitcher. She can focus more on leading the team, and it will help her even more so in her hitting just because she doesn't have to pitch every inning of every game. So I can already see a difference. She's already told me that she's having the best time this year than she's ever had because she doesn't have that pressure.
That's great. So you had a few games get rained out last week. What are the challenges that come with being a sport that's very dependent on the weather, as softball or baseball? You can't just play through anything. What have been the challenges of that, of having the early season tests that you need to have going into later in the season and having to either reschedule or just cancel them outright?
Yeah, it's very tough when you have rainouts early in the season because, like you said, you want to see where your team kind of get a good feel for where they are at this point of the year. The good thing is we did play a tournament this year, which is the first time we've been able to do that with 2 pitchers. So we do have 5 games under our belt. But as you said, last week we had all 3 games rained out. So now we have to take those 3 games and put them into our schedule later on, which forces us to play about 3 games a week, which, again, this year with 2 pitchers is very doable.
That's good to hear. I was looking at your stats through the batting lineup, and one thing that I noticed was how deep the lineup was. There's really not a lot of places in the lineup where you have, quote unquote, free outs, or that you can kind of take a breath if you're a pitcher on the other side. What is that depth in the lineup and that ability just to put up quality at bat after quality at bat due to your offense and ability to score runs?
Yes, that's great this year. As I was making out the lineup for today's game, it was like, oh my gosh, we are so much deeper this year. And this week I get back 2 players who have been injured from ACL injuries. So that's Haley Holland and Ava Carvis. So this week they will be in the lineup, which just strengthens our lineup even more. And as you said, we don't have any easy outs in the lineup anymore.
So this is your 4th season, and the program is really kind of taking a positive trajectory. Last year, going to the Sweet 16, it's the first time Whitefield softball has done that. When you kind of look at your tenure, what have been the keys, or what have been kind of things that, in your opinion, has worked to take Whitefield softball to kind of the next level that they're hoping to see this year, but that we saw also last year?
Right. I think when I arrived here, I was the 4th coach in 4 years, so the girls didn't have much confidence in the program. And so I think just them knowing that I'm going to be here, I'm committed to the program, has made them be more committed to the program. They're now playing outside of school ball, which they weren't when I arrived here. We only had a handful of players that were playing travel ball or even rec ball. So now I have every player in the program playing outside of school ball other than 1 player. So we've come a long way, and it's the results are showing on the field.
On the field, when you're practicing, when you're kind of instilling a culture into this team, what is something that's really important to you in terms of what you stress, how you guys are going to try to win games?
Well, I'm kind of old-fashioned. I love just fundamentals. We go through about 45 minutes of just throwing, catching, and fielding every day. And we finally have gotten good at those drills, and I'm finally starting to see them pay off, especially on the defensive side.
So obviously you guys want to make it further in the state tournament this year. You want to have a lot of success kind of build on last season. What do you think it's going to take, especially if there's kind of some things that you feel like your team still needs to work on? What's it going to take to really take that next step this year?
Well, I truly believe we'll get back to that round of 16 again. We're definitely better than we were last year, so I feel we should be in that same position to try to win 1 extra round to get to the Elite 8 in Columbus, which has always been my goal. And this year with 2 pitchers, it will give us a much better chance, because once you get to the state, you have to play 2 out of 3. So with 1 pitcher, that's just been like our Achilles heel every year. And so this year we'll at least have a fighting chance.
Yeah. So before I wrap up this interview, I do want to ask kind of what is your background before you got to Whitefield in terms of coaching softball? Why is it a sport that you love coaching and you love being on the field every day?
Right. Well, I grew up playing baseball and obviously loved playing baseball. But when my daughter started playing, I started coaching her and coached her in travel ball for 10 years and just fell in love with softball because it's basically girls playing baseball. But the game is much faster paced. The games are shorter and just played on a much smaller field, but just love the game. And as I said, I coached for about 10 years in travel ball. And then I coached 5 years for another school prior to coming here. So just love the game and, feel that I always will.
Yeah, you work in the development office during the day. That's obviously a busy time of the year for you now. And then softball, obviously a busy time of the year. What's been cool to you about being at Whitefield, being able to kind of take your, quote unquote day job and coach softball at the same place that you work during the day?
Right. Whenever I was hired, Danny Ryan asked me if I would be willing to work here just so I could get to know the parents better by being on campus rather than being just a community coach. And fortunately, I was at a place and time during my life that I could, quote, retire from my previous accounting job. So I'm just so blessed and fortunate to be able to work here and coach here because getting to know the families and the players has been huge. And, it just obviously helps me as a coach, knowing the players and the families.
All right. Well, Coach, I appreciate your time today.
Hey, thank you.
That'll wrap it up for episode 2 of the Wolfpack Sports Wire. I want to give a big thank you to Robert Walsh and Mike Fuller for joining me this week. Wolfpack Nation, I hope everyone has a great Labor Day weekend, and we will talk to you next week on The Wire.